Senator, what have you learned about poverty since you've begun the tour?
That it has a lot of different faces, and that it exists everywhere in America. It exists in the Ninth Ward of New Orleans. It exists in small towns like Marks, Mississippi. That there's a lot of poverty that exists in urban areas, rural areas, small towns, small communities. That a lot of work has been done in the past, and people are proud of the work that's been done in the past, but there's an enormous amount left to be done. And there's actually really good-hearted people who want to do something about this. I am absolutely convinced America wants to do something about these predators. I think America wants to do something to give opportunity to people to take care of themselves. They just haven't been asked to do it, and we're going to ask.
When you take a look at statistics like jobs and job growth and unemployment, it looks low. We have unemployment now below 5%. But what can you say about the jobs that people have?
Well, it's deceptive, because a lot of the people who have gone to work at very low wage jobs, many of them minimum wage jobs. If they're not unionized and they don't have health care coverage and they're working for the minimum wage, they're living in poverty. It's just that simple. And even if we raise the minimum wage, and I think the minimum wage needs to be raised to at least $9.50 an hour, and it ought to be indexed so that it goes up automatically. But even if we raise the minimum wage, we're going to continue to see millions of people working who are still living in poverty. To deal with poverty is going to require us to do a lot of different things, not one thing. You know, making work pay is a piece of it, making sure people can hold on to their homes and their dignity in the process. You were just telling me a few minutes ago that this gentleman's house over here he'd lived there, what, 30 years, worked his whole life, and now they're about to take his home away from him. And this is happening everywhere. So it's a combination of making work pay, helping people create some assets, for middle-class families who have assets, protecting them so they can't be taken away, and for the young people, making sure they can go to a good school wherever they live, and making sure they can go to college if they want to go to college.
Mr. Senator, what constitutes a predatory loan in your opinion? Is it just an adjustable rate mortgage, or does it have to be something more?
Well, the abuses that I've heard described today, Mariah can tell you exactly what happened to her. They overvalued her house. They inflated her income, which resulted in the loan being bigger than she could afford to pay for. The other thing that I've seen over and over and over is they load up a bunch of fees on the front end, and then in very tiny type, somewhere buried in a 40-page loan document that even a lawyer couldn't understand, they put all these trigger provisions that allow them to foreclose. I mean, this is calculated to create foreclosure.
And it requires more legislation to...
It requires a national predatory lending law. We have actually a very aggressive predatory lending state law in North Carolina that's very effective, but it's not enough to have it state by state, because what happens is they just move to the place where they're not regulated.
Senator?
Yes.
What would you do specifically to help people?
Well, we've talked about some of it today. National predatory lending law. We want to create jobs in the inner city. One of the things that I proposed is that we create 1 million new, what I call stepping stone jobs, to put young people to work who otherwise might not be able to be employed and might get in trouble. They can work in libraries, in the park system, and recreation centers, so that they can get a work ethic, they start taking care of themselves. In the school system, we need to make sure that inner city schools get the resources and the teachers that they need, which means we need to give incentive pay to teachers who will come and locate in the inner cities. And then we need access to decent, affordable housing for people who are lower income than the families who are living in this neighborhood. And that means we need an expansion of Section 8 housing. And those are things, some of the things I would do.
Senator, this is
a... Can I let someone else and then I'll come back? Yes.
Your wife was in town back in the spring. She made a very inspiring, uplifting speech at the City Club. I think a lot of people connected to her. Can you maybe just kind of give us an update on how she's faring?
She's doing fine. She was with me in New Orleans and into Mississippi. She had to leave to go give a speech in Washington, D.C. this morning, but Elizabeth's doing fine. She's out on the campaign trail. She met me in New Orleans, having just come from campaigning in California, and she still has cancer, but her cancer is under treatment, it's under control, and she's doing very well.
I want to talk about employment again. In this area, if you take an extended tour of Cleveland, you would find a lot of manufacturing, large manufacturing facilities that used to support hundreds and hundreds, thousands of families in this area, and they're now boarded up. Every week we're reporting on jobs that are being lost or moved out of here. Many of those jobs overseas, many of those jobs out of the country. What can you do as president to ensure that good jobs, not just retail jobs, but that good jobs stay in an area here where we still have some manufacturing?
Yeah. Well, what you want to do is stop the bleeding, and you want to try to replace the jobs that have been lost. To stop the bleeding, America needs trade agreements that have real labor and environmental standards in them, in the text of the agreement, and we need a president and administration who's willing to enforce those agreements. Both those things have been missing. Many of the trade agreements, like the South Korean trade agreement, which is up now, does not have those kind of provisions in them. They need to be there. And then this administration has not been willing to enforce the agreements. We need a president of the United States who will in fact enforce these agreements, who thinks that jobs matter, that manufacturing jobs actually make a difference, that he actually built the middle class in this country. You're looking at a product of a man who worked in a manufacturing plant his whole life, textile business in my case. And then the second thing we need to try to replace some of the jobs that have been lost, we're going to go through this, if America's smart and look forward instead of back, we're going to go through a whole transformation in how we produce and use energy in this country. I believe we can create at least 1 million new jobs. A chunk of those will be manufacturing jobs. And what I believe that we should do, and what I would do as president, is to try to identify the places in America that have been the hardest hit by the loss of manufacturing jobs, where the impact has been greatest, and try to move those jobs, those new green-collar jobs, not blue-collar jobs, into those communities.
Senator, we're going to move this way.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.